Chapter 73 of Lorna Doone. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Daisy 55. Lorna Doone by R.D. Blackmore. Chapter 73. How to Get Out of Chancery. Things at this time so befell me that I cannot tell one half, but am like a boy who has left his lesson to the master's very footfall, unready except with false excuses. And as this makes no good work, so I lament upon my lingering in the times when I might have got through a good page, but went astray after trifles. However, every man must do according to his intellect, and looking at the easy manner of my constitution, I think that most men will regard me with pity and goodwill for trying, more than with contempt and wrath for having tried unworthily. Even as in the wrestling ring, whatever man did his best, and made an honest conflict, I always laid him down with softness, easing off his dusty fall. But the thing which next betided me was not a fall of any sort, but rather a most glorious rise to the summit of all fortune. For in good truth it was no less than the return of Lorna, my own darling, in wonderful health and spirits, and as glad as a bird to get back again. It would have done any one good for a 12-month to behold her face and doings, and her beaming eyes and smile, not to mention blushes also at my salutation, when this queen of every heart ran about our rooms again. She did love this, and she must see that, and where was our old friend the cat? All the house was full of brightness, as if the sun had come over the hill, and Lorna were his mirror. My mother sat in an ancient chair and wiped her cheeks, and looked at her, and even Lizzie's eyes must dance to the freshness and joy of her beauty. As for me, you might call me mad, for I ran out and flung my best hat in the barn, and kissed Mother Fry, till she made at me with the sugar nippers. What a quantity of things Lorna had to tell us, and yet how often we stopped her mouth, at least Mother, and Lizzie, and she quite as often would stop her own, running up in her joy to some one of us. And then there arose the eating business, which people now call refreshments, in these dandy-field days of our language. For how was it possible that our Lorna could have come all that way, and to her own Exmoor, without being terribly hungry? "Oh, I do love it all so much," said Lorna, now for the 50th time, and not meaning only the victuals. "The scent of the goose on the moors drove me wild, and the primroses under the hedges. I am sure I was meant for a farmerhouse life, dear Lizzie." For Lizzie was looking saucily, just as you were meant for a soldier's bride, and for writing dispatches of victory. And now, since you will not ask me, dear mother, in the excellence of your manners, and even John has not the impudence, in spite of all his coats of arms, I must tell you a thing, which I vowed to keep until tomorrow morning. But my resolution fails me. I am my own mistress. What think you of that, mother? I am my own mistress. "Then you shall not be so long," cried I, for mother seemed not to understand her, and sought about for her glasses. "Darling, you shall be mistress of me, and I will be your master." A frank announcement of your intent, and beyond doubt a true one, but surely unusual at this stage, and a little premature, John. However, what must be, must be. And with tears springing out of smiles, she fell on my breast and cried a lot. When I came to smoke a pipe over it, after the rest were gone to bed, I could hardly believe in my good luck, For here was I, without any merit, except of bodily power, and the absence of any falsehood, which surely is no condemnation, so placed that the noblest man in England might envy me, and be vexed with me. For the noblest lady in all the land, and the purest, and the sweetest, hung upon my heart, as if there was none to equal it. I dwelt upon this matter long and very severely, while I smoked a new tobacco brought by my own Lorna for me, and next to herself most delicious. And as the smoke curled away, I thought, surely this is too fine to last for a man who never deserved it. Seeing no way out of this, I resolved to place my faith in God, and so went to bed and dreamed of it, and having no presence of mind to pray for anything under the circumstances, I thought it best to fall asleep, and trust myself to the future. Yet ere I fell asleep, the roof above me swarmed with angels, having Lorna under it. In the morning, Lorna was ready to tell her story, and we to hearken, and she wore a dress of most simple stuff, and yet perfectly wonderful by means of the shape and her figure. Lizzie was wild with jealousy, as might be expected, though never would Annie have been so, but have praised it and craved for the pattern. And mother, not understanding it, looked forth to be taught about it. For it was strange to note that lately my dear mother had lost her quickness, and was never quite brisk, unless the question were about myself. She had seen a great deal of trouble, and grief begins to close on people as their power of life declines. We said that she was hard of hearing, but my opinion was that seeing me inclined for marriage made her think of my father, and so perhaps a little too much, to dwell on the courting of 30 years agone. Anyhow, she was the very best of mothers, and would smile and command herself, and be, or try to believe myself, as happy as could be in the doings of the younger folk, and her own skill in detecting them, yet with the wisdom of age, renouncing any opinion upon the matter, since none could see the end of it. But Lorna, in her bright young beauty, and her knowledge of my heart, was not to be checked by any thoughts of haply coming evil. In the morning she was up, even sooner than I was, and through all the corners of the hens, remembering every one of them. I caught her, and saluted her with such warmth, being now none to look at us, that she vowed she would never come out again, and yet she came the next morning. These things ought not to be chronicled, yet I am of such nature that, finding many parts of life adverse to our wishes, I must now and then draw pleasure from the blessed portions. And what portion can be more blessed than with youth and health and strength, to be loved by a virtuous maid, and to love her with all one's heart? Neither was my pride diminished when I found what she had done, only from her love of me. Earl Brandir's ancient steward, in whose charge she had travelled with a proper escort, looked upon her as a lovely maniac, and the mixture of pity and admiration wherewith he regarded her was a strange thing to observe, especially after he had seen our simple house and manners. On the other hand, Lorna considered him a worthy but foolish old gentleman, to whom true happiness meant no more than money and high position. These two last she had been ready to abandon wholly, and had in part escaped from them, as the enemies of her happiness, and she took advantage of the times in a truly clever manner. For that happened to be a time, as indeed all times heretofore, so far as my knowledge extends, have, somehow or other, happened to be, when everybody was only too glad to take money for doing anything. And the greatest money taker in the kingdom, next to the king and queen of course, who had due preeminence and had taught the maids of honor, was generally acknowledged to be the Lord Chief Justice Jeffreys. Upon his return from the bloody